Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Mouthful of Marbles, your number one source for commentary and analysis of the Marbula1. Wow, what a race we just had right now. The Razzway. David, what the heck just happened right now?
Well, first of all,
How are you doing? I'm sorry. How are you doing today, David? I always have to ask.
Yes, simply amazed by the haze, let me tell you.
Oh my god.
Smoggy is clearly the MVP. He's got such a great chance of winning it all this season now.
He does.
And he's given the Hazers a great chance of winning it all this season. This is exactly what I was hoping for going into the Razzway GP.
Mm-hmm.
But before we really analyze that,
yeah, let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about it.
So he got out to a decent first lead, but half of the marbles were stuck on turn one. And the safety marble didn't do its job at all.
No, not at all. It tried.
Which, to be fair,
I guess.
to be fair to the safety marble, it was 10 marbles that it was trying to dislodge. So that's a difficult task.
Mm-hmm.
And then they restart the race, which, by the way, rip the Limers.
Oh.
Good lord, they were up into like third, I believe, and on the restart they dropped all the way into last.
Yeah, rewatching the lap right now. We were like, how far did they actually fall? And they just plummeted. They got stuck right in the middle, and then they got stuck on the outside curve of turn one, and just completely lost everything.
Of course, Lime was able to eventually pass the worst two marbles in all of Marbula1 and Vespa and Mary, but still hilarious. Now, of course, Limers fans are somewhat rightfully upset about the whole restart thing, but that's the only fair way to do this. It's not as if there's any other solution.
If it had been like one or two marbles, then maybe not. But it was more than half of the field. Like there was 5 or 6 marbles going.
And then when all the other marbles finally came around that actually completed their lap,
they all got stopped
too. So you had to do a restart at that point. Yeah. Now I do see somewhat of an argument for, all the marbles that maybe not a complete race restart. You restart it in that order that they're now in. So all those marbles should be a lap up on the rest of the field, maybe because they already completed a lap. I can somewhat see an argument for that, but that's less competitive, I think.
Yeah.
I think fixing the track, clearly there was something wrong with the track. Fixing the track and having a complete race restart is the most fair solution. Now, I will say, if on the restart Smoggy had fallen back, I would not be saying that. I am biased, I will admit. But Smoggy was excellent both times.
Yes,
so
he was.
That was clearly the fair thing. Smoggy really proved that he was the best marble on this track, that he is the most technically proficient marble. He raced excellently throughout, making really only one mistake. But other than that, excellent overtaking, excellent defending.
Well,
he didn't, so consistent.
I mean, he overtook once, but I think the real story was his defense, because there are multiple times, whether it was Origin rapidly early on. Why am I blanking on the person that Mimo? There it is. He had so many blocks on all of those marbles.
True.
And even especially in the last lap, he cost Mimo second place.
He did,
because Mimo was. I mean, I think Mimo got a little too excited, so he was tailgating a little too hard, so when he got that extra bump right off of the straightaway, off that speed boost, it really sent him actually backwards, and then Origin took that lead. So that was incredible. But yes, Smoggy did have the best race, as we said. We thought it would be difficult to overtake in this track, and it most certainly was. And the only place that overtakes really happened, with the exception of the speed boost by Smoggy, because I know you were going to say that, the attenuator was the.
No, I think there were really 3 sections where there were overtakes. The first 2 chicanes, so like turns 1 and 2, there were a good amount of overtakes there. Not as many.
I mean, there was a couple, but I'm saying that the attenuator was the
the hairpin and the attenuator
was what cost Rapidly, who I thought was going to win, huge, because once he got stuck in the back, it was very difficult for him to try to overtake. He was clearly faster than the marbles in front of him, but because it was so narrow after that, and the first 4 laps, he took the outside lane off the attenuator, and that was clearly the slower line. I don't know if that was the team's strategy to try to make up time once they kind of lost a couple of spots, but then once he lost those spots, he struggled.
Maybe get a little bit less traffic on the outside.
Immensely struggled, though, and it was clearly the worst line of the two.
So to go on what you just said about rapidly, I think that really proves the analog we made yesterday with Monaco, how overtaking was really difficult. Track position was super important. And once rapidly lost that track position, he just couldn't gain it back no matter what he tried to do, even though he was fast. Now, back to Smoggy, I think he was excellent. He made the one mistake on the attenuator. I think he was taking a bit too much curb on the first turn fairly consistently, but it didn't matter because he was so much better everywhere else. He was technically almost perfect throughout the rest of the track. Origin, who I also predicted to be up there and eventually did get up into second, he had an excellent race because he actually dropped back into fifth at one point. Those top three were really battling a lot. Mimo, super impressed, I think we both were, with how he was able to stay in the top three throughout the race. He challenged Smoggy fairly well. He was pressing Smoggy.
Oh yeah, continuously because
his comfortable.
But that's because of that first chicane. He was not taking curb almost at all.
That's right.
So his Mimo sector 1 was much better than Smoggy's, but Smoggy was able to do everything else better. Never hit he hit the attenuator once.
Yeah.
But his sectors 2 and 3 were just far superior to everybody else's.
And the way he overtook Mimo when Mimo did overtake him the next lap around Smoggy, I think that was just a brilliant move because we've talked about how the speed boost wasn't really being taken advantage of most of the time because it didn't seem that useful. Smoggy, that was I think the only time he really used it was to overtake Mimo. He took the speed boost and it was just a brilliant. I mean, I'm so impressed by the sort of racing, the racecraft, the genius of Smoggy there. Really impressive.
Yeah, he was the only one that seemed to be consistently hitting the same lines, and then when he absolutely needed to, he would take just a slightly different line in order to overtake, as we saw in that specific speed boost. And I can't, obviously we can't confirm. We've done a lot of I've done a lot of going back and forth looking at before the after the first start and then after the second start. It looks like that the track was lowered slightly in order to make sure that didn't happen again. And I think that Smoggy definitely adjusted the best off of that change to the track because it looked like there was more speed generated just in general in that particular sector of the track. So he really adjusted nicely to that, and it almost worked perfectly for him. So your predictions actually turned out very well. You had Smoggy winning, you had Origin in second. Obviously, neither one of us thought that Mimo was going to do as well, but because of the fact that we didn't know how the track was going to race, because it's the first time we've seen it, it was very much like Monaco, where if you had a pole position or if you had a front spot, it was very hard to lose it because it was so difficult to overtake in a lot of the different parts of the track. And even
I wouldn't say it was difficult to lose your position. It was kind of easy to lose your position in terms of mistakes.
It was harder to overtake if you were faster because it was narrow. So even if you were faster than the marble in front of you, as long as they didn't make mistakes, you were just going to bump them faster.
Right.
And so, but there was several marbles that started strong, even rapidly, and then even Snowflake came in and looked good for a while. Billy started looking good at the beginning of the first start, but then fell off after that. But there was plenty of marbles that kind of Wispy, or was it was Wispy, right?
Wispy
and
did
excellent. He came up forward. He did really well. But then
he was in fifth in qualifying, and he made it up to fourth. I think he moved back.
But that's just another consistent race from him. Right. But there were plenty of people, and like I said, my Snowflake, my Billy prediction, they would start strong and then they would hit something or something and they would lose those spots and then they could just never gain them back.
Right. So I think what was really interesting, we talked about Team Galactic's, meteoric fall. And Pulsar qualified 13th. He made it all the way up into I think 5th or even 4th.
Yeah, he had a great race.
He ended up in 8th. He ended up in 8th, so not excellent. And obviously Team Galactic now in the standings is down into 4th, so they really have collapsed to a degree.
But at one point we were saying that we thought he was going to have a good race. I think he got up, in the top 5 and then fell back down. And then of course Razzie, the Raspberry Racers, their home speedo. We got to talk about that for a little bit. Started pretty far back in the field. I think it was like 13th, 14th. Got all the way up to 9th, so not a horrible race from them. But, you would expect a little bit more. But again, I think this, in all honesty, I think this was the least, not necessarily mixed up final that we had, but it seemed like the most consistent throughout. The marbles were basically in the same spot the entire race.
That's true. But it was very
from
exciting.
All the other tracks. But it was very exciting for the front three because, they were always pretty much neck and neck, and it was really about who could hold off the person behind them the best. And Smoggy
and that
was
made
able
that
to do
final lap That final lap was
probably the most intense final lap. That was just incredible. Like one of the most up and down races because it started so high and then everything just like fell apart. And then we had that incident with the marble from the crowd coming on the track and the security marbles having to come out. That was incredible. Like that's never happened before. No. And it's just the chaos continues. Everywhere is chaos, even in Marbula1, and it's just fantastic, honestly. I'm here for it. It is. I am here for it.
We would be remiss if we didn't mention the tragedy of Mary and even Vespa, but Mary...
Those two.
Awful again.
What are we going to do with those two?
Mary 13 1/3 seconds behind Smoggy, which you would say, that's not that much considering sort of the gaps we've seen between first and last place in other races, but with how tight this Grand Prix is, with how narrow it is. You would expect the gap to not be that big.
I couldn't believe it.
Vespa is the only other marble with Mary that has not scored any points this season. Vespa is easily the second worst marble in Marbula1. Mary was 4 seconds behind Vespa.
How is it possible? I have to know what the difference between Prim and Mary is. There has got to be something. Like, what is Mary doing?
I just don't 4 seconds behind Vespa's not good. Vespa's a Marbula 2 marble. Mary
at
proving
best
once again a Marbula 3 marble. Now we have talked about, we've seen on Reddit, people have been discussing how we have to keep in mind in Marble League, Mary has actually been quite good. The only gold medal in team primary history.
Sure.
But on the funnel,
but it's where the slowest time
is what you want. So Mary's clearly a very slow marble and excellent at being slow. So
excellent.
Why do you have her in Marbula1? This is about speed.
Well, I'm sure they will change.
This is not the right choice for the team. Holding team primary could easily be a top 4 team.
Yeah. If the way that Prim's performing, I mean, Prim still technically has a chance at winning the Racers Championship if he does well next week.
Prim and Snowy both only need a top 2 performance to overtake. Well, a top 2 performance is very good. They need a top 2 performance to overtake Smoggy in the individual standings, and the Hazers actually only need a top 4 finish to secure a Marbula1 season victory. So Hazy just has to get top 4.
It's going to be incredible. I'm very excited for the last race. This penultimate race was incredible. Absolutely fantastic. But the last thing with Mary and just the end of the race, Mary was so far behind that the incredible Greg Woods forgot what to say because he was waiting for her. He literally is just like, and that's a top 10. Okay, and that rounds out the field. It's just like he couldn't even say anything. Incredible stuff from Mary to make Greg Woods the best lose his train of thought. Incredible.
I mean, and we saw how incredible, because Greg Woods really handled the beginning of the race very well, because so there's so much intensity and buildup going into the start of this penultimate Grand Prix. I mean, there's so many storylines that we've talked about over the last week, and it's in the front we've got Smoggy and we've got Mimo and Orangin and Rapidly's up there, and everything's coming down to this, and then all the marbles get stuck and we have to do a complete restart. I mean, it was just, the comic relief was great. And give some credit to Mary. Mary has provided comic relief all season.
She really has. It's been great to watch. I cannot wait for the last race. But before the last race, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's been subscribing, commenting, and helping us out with delicious ideas for the next couple of days. We've got so many great comments of topics to discuss, of things that we can really dive into and make multiple videos for you guys' enjoyment. And we really hope that you will continue to interact and give us things to talk about. And we will continue to talk to you guys in the comments. We've really been appreciating it. But for now, I think we're going to leave it there. There's going to be so much to talk about this week, so many different storylines we're going to dive into. We really appreciate you guys watching this episode, and we will see you later in the week. This has been Mouthful of Marbles. We'll see you next time.